Let's paint these Valentine's inspired heart cards, I'm gonna call them. I have two different ones. They're going to be more or less the same, but what I want to do is I'm going to paint them at the same time because we're going to do the wet on wet technique, which needs dry time. And so while the one is drying, we're going to paint on the other one. So you don't have to do both, but just so you know, that's how I'm going to do this. So this one is just a plain and easy one. And in this one, you can either use pen, a ruler and draw a rectangle around it, or you can tape it, and that makes it a little easier to get if you want to go close to the edges so you can paint it. So this step is going to be up to you if you just want to draw it or if you just want to wing it. I like winging it.
Oh, the guy here, dude. The guy right here. Fine. Oh, there's a crap out of hands. Here, man. Oh, here.
So I'm just typing it down. I'm getting my masking. I just quickly want to put my phone on airplane mode. Um,
No, there's a guy that has you that came up. I don't know what's happening. Follow him.
so take the tape. Hopefully you measure. Okay. So I prepared this one. You can also, if it gets stuck to your table, it's okay. You can just kind of flip it over. This is just so you can kind of paint wild, and when you take it off, it is inside the lines. I'm also having this little paint strip, so I can mix and match color and then see which ones I may want to repeat or may want to do again. So a little paint strip is also nice, especially if you are mixing. I'm gonna go pinky, purple, grayish for my Valentine's card. You can definitely go red. You can mix and match however you want. I'm going to use a big brush. Let me just see. Maybe let me just see. A big-ish brush. The cool thing about watercolor is wherever you put water down, the paint will not go outside. So if you place the water and it will not go. So the bigger makes it just a little bit faster. And then I want to try to leave a few white spots to make my heart just feel a tiny, tiny bit three-dimensional. So I'm going to start with this one because I want this one to dry a little faster because of the overlapping. When you trace your lines, also make sure that your lines remain really light. I'm making mine a little darker so you can see, but definitely make your lines really light. You can also erase afterwards. This is a good one. You can just kind of go like this and make it a bit lighter. Okay, so make sure your lines are light. Then lace water down. Dip my brush. I'm dipping. Good brush. Doesn't matter the size. Have a good point. So this is a great point. I'm going to do the big ones first. And I'm going to do my little highlight here. So I'm going to paint with water. I'm not touching my towel. I'm not doing anything. I want to make my whole heart a little wet. And I'm going to do like a rainbow kind of non-painted area. I'm going to go into my pink. So I have pink here. And I'm going to drop it in. And you will see where you left the open spaces, the paint is not going to go in there. If you start painting and you feel it is really, really, really wet, just do this so you can see what I mean. Even if I go like this, you will see it will keep the little highlight area. My highlight is a little big, but it's fine. Just do this. So if it feels like you have too much water, you suck your brush and then you push it down and your bristles will suck it up and you can kind of suck up a little bit of the water. And just keep on doing this. Don't do that. Just, do this. You can make your highlight a little smaller. Because again, if I don't paint there, the water will not go there. Make sure your outside edges are nice and even. And you can always drop in just here and there a little bit dark. And then let the water do the work for you. Kind of move it. And then let it be. I'm going to take the same color I just used and I want to repeat it a few times. And I'm going to do the smaller one. Make it wet, drop in the color. My brush was a little full of paint. So now that you can see how you can paint with it, it is okay if you don't want to just put water down. You can also just go for it. Drop, drop, drop. Let it be. That one is kind of cut off, so you don't really see a highlight. Maybe let's do this one. And I'm going to leave a little highlight again here at the top. So wetter is better. Lighter is nicer. So go like this. Leave a little spot. Put in color. Maybe not as much as that one, maybe a little bit less. Let it dry. Maybe this one. I'm going to leave maybe the highlight more towards the middle where the curvy kind of is. Paint, 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 paint. See how the masking tape is like helping you to go out of the lines. And then let the water and you will see how cool it dries. So you kind of don't want to fuss too much. It's a little tricky, I know. I'm gonna let this dry a bit. Hi. A bit, and then I'm gonna work on the other one. So let me go here. Maybe we should do this one a little red. Let's see. I'm gonna use my same pink that I have over here. I'm gonna add a little bit of orange to it. Oh, that's pretty. I'm gonna dip into my water cup before I start painting. more water is better. So this is why the big brush is so much easier. And dip into your water cup as you start painting. Leave a little highlight here at the top. Dip, 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 paint, paint, paint. A big brush makes it just faster. A big brush just holds more water and more paint. So it just makes it a little easier, especially for this wet on wet, where you really want to get it moving so it can flow into each other. Drop a little bit paint when it's still wet. If it starts to dry, like here at the top where I just started painting, you just do. Make sure you point your brush really well so it goes all the way around the curves. Even if it looks like you outline it, you can come back and just mess it up. So what if you can see your lines like that? Clean your brush, suck up a little bit of the water. I like to do a double. And then just tap, tap, tap with your wet brush, and you will see how it will kind of move the paint a little bit. And if it feels like it's drying an edge, again, just touch your wet brush, and then you can even, because you just made it wet, drop in a little bit more color. And because it's wet and the texture in your paper, it's going to flow. Okay. So then I'm going to paint this little tiny one at the bottom. He's not touching anything. I'm not going to paint this one because it will flow. And I'm changing the color slightly. Maybe you can add purple to that mixture. Orange, purple. This is where your strip comes in handy if you're mixing. Oh, I like this one. Okay, so I'm going to do the dog this. Again, I want to keep the little highlight here. So I'm going to make sure I dip into my water cup before I start painting. My brush is wet. I follow the curve, but I don't want to do an outline. I fill it in immediately. Add more water. Make your curve. And then maybe add a little more orangey. Oops, maybe not that much. Another thing that happens when you have a bigger brush, you just make your wow so much wetter. So you have to be careful how much paint you actually pick up. Go a little here. Tap, tap, tap with your wet brush. Your rainbow is too big, or your highlight spot, make it a little smaller. And then you just want to, and I like these watermarks, so I'm not going to touch it. I like how different it is. I'm going to use this color for my other one. So I'm going to let this one dry. And I'm going to do a few of these dark ones. Okay, so let's just try it again. Or they're just more orangey. Well, let's see. Now, if it's wet, so if you pick it up and it is shiny, it is too wet to paint over it. So I'm going to find ones that's not touching other hearts. I'm going to do this one. I forgot to leave the highlight. It's okay. You can also draw them in and then you will remember better. But The less pencil lines, the easier it is to get uh, this effect. I'm gonna drop a little bit at the bottom and see how it dries. And then you just touch your heart here, and that's okay. It's fine. Everything is fine. Go here. Now, you can also, maybe a paper towel will work better for this. You can fold a tiny little corner like this, and you can suck up a bit to have a dry spot. And even here, if you really want to bring back the highlight that I just keep on forgetting to do. Now I have dots, but I can come from this side and make my little highlight shape. Be careful not to go too close because it will flow and it will close up that spot because your paper is still kind of wet. But you can bring them back sort of kind of like this. Oh, it also doesn't have to be perfect. And if you want to leave a few more white spots, it's kind of cute and cool. So do it. I'm going to repeat it one more time. I'm going to also repeat this color here. Let me just check that big part. I'm going to do this one. So I can see that my big heart is still shiny, so it's wet, but this one is good. So I'm going to take this color that I was just using. Oh, I'm mixing a new one, so hopefully it's the same. And I'm going to paint here. So now you will see that this color actually goes over my first layer. Now, here's what you need to do. You cannot really fuss a lot with this. So it's kind of a one and done. So I'm going to go done, done, done. And that's it. If you are going to paint more, these colors are going to smush into each other. And we want a see-through kind of effect. So it's a one and done. And then do not touch it again. Okay. Let's check this one. I used a little bit less water on this one, but see how cool it's drying? Really nice. I'm going to put this one here and do the last one on this one. Now, again, maybe we want to go a little bit more purple. Maybe even a little blue. Let's see. That's kind of pretty too. Any colors will do, and you may have to do a few so you can figure out what color really works for you. Same idea. I'm painting. I'm going to do my little highlight while I remember. So this one is not overflowing or overlapping. Better word, not overlapping. Make sure you go close. It will not go over the edge because it's not wet. It would be a completely different story if these other two hearts were still wet because then they will flow into each other. Add a little water to make it lighter. Move the paint around. Get a little bit more paint. Go to drop it in. Right from the top, you can get your paintbrush really tiny. So if you go like this, you can definitely control how much you press down with your bristles. And then let the water do the work for you. And if you feel you have too much white space because as it's drying, it kind of moves and then settle, just drop a little bit in there. And it will move. You can even move it like this if it's wet. So the water may just push it away a bit. So if you feel, you can always bring back color when it's sometimes when it's wet. You can always bring it back. Thank you. It's a little highlight. Right. Then I'm going to switch to my smaller brush, a little teeny tiny one. And I'm going to do a dark blue, purple, pinky. You can also do black. I don't know if I would like black on this. I'm going to get a nice color. Sometimes it's easier to mix color with a bigger brush, but I seem to, maybe I'll add a little. Oh, I'm out of black. That's why we don't want to add black because I'm out of black. And again, right from the top, you want to do skinny lines. Now, the problem with a small brush is it doesn't hold a lot of paint and a lot of water. So you have to dip a few more than you think. And then make sure your line stays skinny. So every single time you come down with your cursor, you go a little bigger and fatter. And then if you go up, you go skinny. So that's why all the lines I go down, I make a little wider as I paint it. Oops, don't do that. Now it's thicker, but it's hand painted. So down, definitely thicker. That's why a small brush is easy. Go up, skinny, make the curve and come down. You can also press down with your bristles and it will make it automatically a little bit bigger, depending on how long your bristles are. So if your paintbrush bristles are very long, then you might not want to do this, but these ones are nice and short. So right from the top, you get skinny, and then a little bit with an angle and press down. And then try to make them the same, sort of maybe kind of the same thickness. And then I'm going to let this dry before I add something else to this. So this is the one. Moving on to this one. I really like this color that I mixed. I'm going to add a little bit more of those. Switching to the big brush again. Dip in your water cup. Make sure where you want to paint it is dry. You made a little spot, see if you can remove it because I was very splattery earlier. I forgot to highlight again, but I know I can come back and just do this. When it's wet, suck it up. Let it dry just for a minute because the paper is still wet. Maybe come back and add a little color. Try not to paint. If you do this, it's kind of a one and done, maybe twice if you're lucky. And let it dry. And then come and do your little highlight. And then let the water help you. I'm going to repeat the same color on this one. Again. One and done. You leave a few open spaces and drop in maybe here at the bottom a little bit bluer. And I'm doing another one because this is a pretty color. I'm getting some pink in it because this one was a little blue. I'm just getting maybe a bit more pink in it. Let me see. I like it. I'm going to do it here. I'm remembering the highlight. I'm going to do it right there. I don't really want to make it darker where I'm overlapping. So I'm going to just do a little here and see how it will flow. Remember, right from the top, you can maybe, your lines can be a little skinnier. Then I'm going to do a few that is really light. So I have like a much strong ones, and then I think I want to do ones that's really light. So I'm going to get the pink, add orange. We can even add yellow. Yellow makes it very pretty too. Let's see. Oh, pretty. Yeah. Add more water. Maybe clean your brush before you start painting. And make some light ones. But you can still add, don't want to where you overlap it. But you can definitely do it here. And then you will see how it will flow. And do a little light one here. Drop in some extra. It's so wet, it just keeps on flowing. And then, let me see what color. Let's go maybe a bit more pinky, maybe pinky red. Make sure you do not paint where it's wet. So you can see the shiny is the wet and the non-shiny. So it could be fun to kind of mix at least 4 or 5 different colors that you really like. And then it's easy. So you want to kind of see the overlapping. So be careful. To over paint. This one is still wet, so I obviously didn't check so well. So you can now see what is happening. It's flowing a little bit, but I think it's still going to be pretty. Now let's check. The bottom one can be fine. You are more likely to see it when everything is dry versus when everything is still a little bit wet. And then for this one, I'm just going to make, I cannot paint it. Okay, let's move on to the other one because before I mess this up. Okay, here. I have this shimmer gold that I really like. So what I'm going to do is, I can't even remember how to get them out. Oh, slide. I take my big brush and I'm going to go for the gold, and I'm just going to make it a little wet. So I'm taking, you can also spray it, but I'm always messing everywhere. So I'm just going to do a little paintbrush drop. And then I'm going to go in my small brush. So this isn't really a solid color. So what you can do is you can just kind of paint maybe your love, maybe you want to paint around your edges. You can just add a few details with the gold. So I'm going to do on the outside of my lettering, towards the left and towards the bottom. And I'm just going to give a tiny little gold line. And you will see it's not really solid. But it's a nice shimmer. So towards the left every single time and towards the bottom. As soon as it feels like your hand want to go up, you stop. You just want to give like a little shadow everywhere on the left. And then on the bottom. And then by making it wet, it's just a little easier since the brush is so small. You may have to do it again. You don't have to go into your water cup. Down. even in the little curly areas, you want to make sure that you go every single time there's a left side, you want to paint there. And then where the bottom is, you want to paint there. See how pretty? My V is not so great. Isn't that so gorgeous? So now you can also do it with your hearts. I would just do, oops, I would just do maybe on the lines. And for this one, I think I'm just going to frame them. So making a little outline. If your pencil lines are really dark, you may want to erase them first before you do this step. I made sure that mine is really soft. So as soon as you traced it, I feel you should never go and do it again. You should want to keep your pencil lines really soft. Don't put your hand in the wet paint. So be careful. Really nice. Ooh, this one. And you can also use a pen, and you can also make your line on purpose a little bit messier. Oh my gosh, I love the gold. You know, so it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, moving on to this one. Let's see how I can do damage control here. I think it's still fine. I mean, and then I'm just going to make a light one. So lots of water, and I'm just going to cover it. Add a little bit. Make sure to get your outside lines nice. So make sure you put your hand down. You can also switch to a different brush if your round big brush doesn't have a good point. Okay. And then this is how you can do the overlap kind of look. And I kind of like the way it looks. So before you take off the paint, the tape, you can also splatter a little bit. Sometimes it's nicer to splatter a different color. Bigger brushes is a little easier because it holds more water. So, you know, and even if it goes on your hearts like this, and I like to dip, but even if it goes on your heart, you take your towel and you can just kind of, don't wipe them. You just want to suck them up. and then move to a new space. But the actually looks nice, the splattering on top of the hearts too. And then you can always just clean your brush really well. Go here, make sure it's not too wet, and you can just kind of smoosh it a little. Like tap, tap, tap. You don't really want to paint. You just kind of want to see if you can lift the spots, if there's any. Let's see if it's dry. Could be. I'm going to just make a little crisp line. So you can see there's two hearts. And some of them can be overlapping and some are not so visible overlapping. You can add gold, of course. That's pretty. And then I want my splattering to be dry in case I'm touching it, but let me just show you. If it happens that you try to get rid of the tape and it's stuck, depending on what kind of tape you're using, use your hair dryer or a heat gun to warm it a little bit before you take it off, and then the glue will be less gluey. If you use a heat gun, be careful not to burn your paper because that happens. This one I kind of ripped the paper a little bit, but it's okay. Oh my gosh, look how cute. I love it.